Okay, welcome everybody to the New Education Show. I'm Dean Val. Dean Kevin is with us, and Tim from Grants Pass, Oregon. Welcome to the show. I'm going to be continuing with my book reading of Luther Standing Bear's chapter on plants, trees, and herbs. To start with, this book is called My Indian Boyhood, and it has to do with the education of the little Indian kids and how they were really supportive of the natural environment. They didn't destroy it; they actually lived with it. Were able to be, it basically uh, survived from it without any technology. Quite amazing. These people are demonstrating to us that what can be done, not destroying the planet. So there's much to it. These people, these indigenous type people, that they've learned, and that's including their dreams and being multidimensional themselves, which we don't hear too much about, except for the shamans, etc. But actually, they were very much into aliens and dreams and etc. If you can find information on that. But I'll just be reading about basically Luther's upbringing and his experiences as a kid in the Lakota Sioux Nation. The Sioux were encamped on the Missouri River, somewhere on the east side. The medicine man told the people of his vision that had the place where this wonderful stone lay behind an earth had been revealed to him. At once, preparations were made to go to the land where the stone was to be found. There was no argument with the medicine man, no question as to where he would lead them. The Sioux believed in their medicine men. They were our wise men, and we had faith just as the people in the Bible days had faith in their wise men. Our medicine men were always searching for and finding things that were of benefit to us. So the entire camp moved to the place where the medicine man said the stone would be found. Flint tools were all they possessed in those days, so with these they began to dig in the earth. They came to a layer of stone, but it was not what they were looking for. The second layer of stone which they came to was still not was not the right kind. They continued digging and came to a third layer of stone, but still they had not found what they were searching for. Nevertheless, the digging went on. The fourth time they came to a stone, it proved to be a soft red stone, and they knew that they had found what they were looking for, the stone for the pipe of peace. Out of this stone was made the first pipe that was to become the most powerful symbol the Sioux have. The first pipes that were made were not so large as they are today, for the tools were not so good. It was not easy to bore through the stone, and the pipes were not so smoothly finished and so nice to look at as they are now. When the pioneers came among us, they brought tools, and these the stoneworkers learned to use with skill. It was not long, however, after the pioneer came that our beds of pipes material were being torn up and put into buildings. In 1880, at Flandreau, which is between Pine Ridge and the Rosebud Reservations, someone found the black soapstone. By this time, the pipe makers had files, saws, and other conveniences, so they began making very fine and fancy-looking pipes. The bowls were shaped like the buffalo or bear, and one that must have taken a good deal of work was shaped like a locomotive. I had one myself, but gave it away at the time I was made chief. When tobacco was first burned as a medicine, it was burned full strength, but for smoking it, it was too strong, so a way was found to make it weaker. The red willow filled this purpose. This willow grows nearby or nearly everywhere in this country and turns red in the fall, and for this reason called the red willow. The Sioux used a great deal of this willow, and I have seen them carrying large bundles of it to their teepee to make into smoking weed. The outer bark is peeled off, and next to the wood is a soft green bark. This is shaved off and dried in the sun, then mixed with the tobacco. Of course, before we had fire, men did not smoke. But that was a long, long time ago. Only in legends is the story kept of how we found fire and learned how to cook our meat. Our legends say that in that time we ate the meat without cooking, yet it was not exactly raw. It was chipped up fine in thin slices, hung in the sun to dry. At a certain stage, it was cured just right. If left in the sun too long, it would dry more than was necessary to cure and would crumble. In my day, all meat was cooked. There were, however, two parts of the buffalo that we ate raw, the kidney and the liver. Eating a piece of raw liver or kidney now and then is good for the digestion. The Sioux have done this for many years, but I read in the newspaper a few weeks ago that the white doctors are just finding this out. The article that I read claimed that the doctors had found vitamins in raw meat that were nourishing to people who were not getting enough strength out of their food. It seems strange that white people eat so much, and some of them get so fat, yet they are not strong, but are ailing and sickly, and always going to a doctor. In our natural life, we ate a simple diet, and did not eat much. Yet we were strong and were ashamed of ourselves if we were fat and had no strength. Some tribes of the Indians have made pottery vessels in which to carry water and food, but my people did not. And we did not have tin buckets until the white man came. In place of either of these, we used the paunch of the buffalo. The paunch was cleaned, and at the top a rawhide rope was drawn through holes by which the top could be closed. If it was to be left open like a bucket, 4 sticks were thrust through the holes at the top. This utensil usually hung on a pole near the door of the teepee, though in the summertime it was put outside under a shade made of limbs of trees. As long as water was kept in this pouch, it stayed soft and rubbery and was easy to handle. But if the water was drawn out for any length of time, it became hard and cracked. If fresh water was put in often, this bucket would last a long time. Furthermore, the water would stay pure and wholesome in this vessel. Oftentimes we put leaves of peppermint in to float on the top, for we like both the flavor and the odor of the peppermint. It was a habit with us to drink a great deal of water. The white people have such a coffee, tea, beer, soda pop, and cocoa. But after all, we had lots of good health. Nowadays, there are specialists of all sorts to keep one well. There is the eye specialist and the foot specialist. The dentist looks after the teeth, and another fellow tries to keep you from getting bald-headed. I do not remember ever seeing a bald-headed Sioux in my youth, but now we are afflicted just like the white man. Most of the men of my boyhood days hoped to die on the battlefield so they would not grow old and useless. For most Indians died of old age and not of disease. Maybe someday all these wise men will be able to point the way for their people to go in order to have health and happiness. At the present time, they seem to be helpless to do this. We not only use the paunch of the buffalo for water buckets, but for cooking kettles as well. Before the white men came, we had no iron pots of any kind, but we boiled our meat and had soup just the same. A frame made of 4 sticks sat firmly in the ground, held the paunch suspended in the center. This paunch had been cleaned and the top left open like a kettle. The meat was put into this pot with some water and hot stones thrown in. Slowly, the meat began to boil. When the stones had cooled, others were put in and the boiling kept going. Finally, the pot began to shrink and cook with the meat. When all was done, we drank the soup, ate the meat, and finished up by eating the pot too. There was left of the meal only the stones. There were no dishes to wash, so it wasn't such a bad system after all. We had no bread, no pies, no cakes. But we had plenty of fruits and plants to eat. We lived simply but well, and our food was fresh, not stored away in cans for months and months before we ate it. There is no life in food that is kept in this manner, and it is not wholesome. We kept cherries and plums all winter by drying them and storing them away in clean rawhide bags. The wild turnip kept all winter, and even after the snow came, the women dug up the wild carrot. So during the long winter, we had plenty of meat, fruit, and vegetables. It seemed that everywhere we went, there was food waiting for us. In those days, the Indian led a happy life. Okay, so I'm just reminded of how we are presented with this history-altering, and I wonder how long this is going to last, these books about Indians, etc., because every couple generations, like according to Rockefeller, history is rewritten. There's been a reset of things, so a lot of things that are supposedly have happened, they kind of disappear, especially if it's been a benefit to people. And the controllers put in the textbooks and in the media what supposedly had happened. So this is going on continually. So this is in a way, a very precious book because it's still like, it's firsthand knowledge of how people lived by Luther Standing Bear, the 4 books he's written. And like I say, this information gets lost or taken away. Like I noted the example of Wikipedia deleting the primary water, and basically history itself has been rewritten many, many times. And who knows where this is going to go, but I just wanted to share this, and I'll probably keep reading next week too, because it's a good source of information, how people, alternative view of how people live with the environment, not destroying it.
Recent real side experiences I've had have included a search for ancient tomes, books, and artifacts. It must be pointed out that the whole purpose of creation is to recognize the true reality, from all the comparison that everything creational affords. Everything creational can be broken down then into ideas, as everything that becomes a simulated actuality originally stemmed from the thought, the imagination, then through the decided mechanics of the simulator, decided according to a consciousness, did an idea become so. An idea became a book or an artifact. On the other dimensions of the simulator, beyond the physical, everything is according to a thought. So ideas are instantly so, and any limitation is that which has simply been decided. And despite then the potentiality of the other life levels being instantly whatever is decided, the life levels do operate on agreement as to their design. And if people accept their other dimensional life level environments the way they are established, then they rather are resigning themselves to limitation also. The heavens of man, for example, as agreed to places, which then become rather fixed, and most who enter such places on a transition wouldn't consider how they are not resigned to anything, including the agreed to life level designs. As such, the other dimensions of life can have fixed places and areas where agreement to them maintains them. And if the agreements that originally created them become subconscious as lifetimes go by, and these agreements to ideas are then forgotten and not consciously realized, so can these subconscious agreements still be generating fixed areas in the other life levels and dimensions, but that their locations can become forgotten. And so it is that there are many hidden, though subconsciously maintained, places and spots in the other life level dimensions, and to find them is possible through the real awareness that is through all creation and consciousness, and so can be unearthed these subconsciously hidden and maintained locations, where sometimes curious species and body types reside, equally as forgotten as these hidden locations are. Also, these sites are veritable treasure troves of buried and hidden books, tomes, artifacts that perhaps were forgotten, or maybe hidden in locations that would become lost consciously, that at some point in cause and effect they would be revealed to those who connect with the real awareness. And through the real awareness can these locations and ancient books of knowledge and such be found. For of course these would represent ideas, as everything in creation does, and we must be aware to not be absorbed into any idea regardless of what it is, but to utilize every idea as references to recognize the is from, as every idea can serve this comparison purpose. Everything is workable to that end. But of course, is recognition is the real purpose and reason for being in creation, but we also must survive in the simulated realms as best as we are able for the completion of our awareness process and recognition of the is to be so. As such, we utilize all we can for survival, and if there are ancient sites throughout creation, from the physical to the etheric, that contain information, books, scrolls, whatever it may be, that can be an aid to survival, then it makes sense to locate these. Hence the nature of some of my real side experiences of late, of exploring and finding these long forgotten places on the real side. An example of hidden informations on the physical, which later was found, where valuable information can be gleaned, would be the Nag Hammadi Scrolls. The following information was sourced from africaiswoke.com. In the Gnostic Gospels, the archons are defined as an alien, false king, tyranny ruler that controls through masks of deception, promoted through war, technological abuse, such as mind control, frequency implants, and military strategies that can be applied to human or non-human alien sources. The archonic deception stems mostly from the reptilian and draconian races from the Orion constellation. All this borders on the unbelievable, were it not for the fact the archon deception was already noted and explained by the first century Gnostic Christian movement. In December 1945, a red earthenware jar was found near Nag Hammadi, a city in Upper Egypt, and inside the jar were papyrus books dating from approximately AD 350. The papyrus books were released as the Nag Hammadi Library, and for the first time we had a first-hand account of the earliest Christian beliefs. The writings were very different from the Gospels, comprised mainly of sayings rather than elaborate social situations for Jesus' ministry. In the Nag Hammadi Library, we find first-hand encounters with inorganic beings called archons. According to Gnostic Nag Hammadi teachings, archons arose in the early stage of formation of the solar system, before the Earth was formed, and are capable of intruding on Earth. Archons are considered predators that feed on human psychic energy. In unmasking the reptilian deception and understanding archons in Gnosticism, we relied on ancient Sumerian records and Gnostic teachings, and their illuminating effect should already be clear. The transformation of flesh and blood Anunnaki beings into a supreme spirit appears to have been inspired by the need to find meaning and security, a resting place in the chaos of every generation. it also suited for an ancient kingship model, and was fashioned to serve the needs of that era. These were the beginnings of the Reptilian Deception, as part of the broader Archonic Deception, as understood through the Archons in Gnosticism teachings, that is now still being carried out throughout by the Reptilian Draco group. We have outgrown the notion of autocratic government, but the accompanying Draco political religious mindset remains. Judaism and all the religions of today that stem from it are revealed as the remnants of a multi-dimensional psychological control system designed to manipulate and dupe humanity into throwing away its own potential in the service of extraterrestrial beings that regard our planet purely as a resource for their own energy requirements, whether it's food or minerals. This is the essence of the Reptilian Deception, to conceal from human beings their true divine potential and identity as sovereign spirits, by devising a game of religious deception and kingship which diverts the spiritual energy human beings possess to serve their own ends as psycho-spiritual parasites, and in the process limiting mankind's true potential, because he does not use his divinity and energy to develop himself, but instead to feed the reptilian masters of deception. And there the article would end, and my additional thoughts on the subject. So, the scrolls would reveal the reptilian influence on humanity's affairs, how they manipulate and manage the consciousness to effect the overall simulation they want, that of control that suits their purposes and maintains their desired controlling positions. The scrolls would mention these details. Their word for simulation was HAL, H-A-L. So the Gnostics did realize, it seems, that creation was a simulation, and that it could be manipulated. If individuals surrendered their free will to controllers, in that their free will choices and decisions that effect simulated experience were two agreements to the control that the reptilians represented. And so, part of survival in creation is recognizing how creation works, its cause to effect mechanics, and the acknowledging of the reptilian controllers who are throughout the dimensions of it. Understanding a consciousness as a vehicle for simulated experience forging is crucial, and how agreements can be trawled through the various means that they are, mainly subconscious. And so, part of the awareness process is becoming aware of everything creation comprises of, including all the idea agreements that make creation what it currently is. And so we would endeavour to learn of the reptilians, their control of the simulator, and how they have managed the overall consciousness through agreement. As such, knowledge of what's really taking place is essential, and so such hidden information, such as these Nag Hammadi Scrolls, do assist in the overall understanding. And although everything is available through the real awareness, the personal self still must be shown. That will facilitate its understanding and survival. Really, it doesn't matter what we know. If our intent is with the ears, then the process unfolds as it will, and what happens simulated-wise, we can deal with and get through. But then the personal self can disrupt the process if it holds to considerations that aren't accurate or that are programmed in. If, say, for an example, hold to the idea that God created us, then despite an awareness process, we are remaining in agreement and attachment with this restricting idea. So the personal self does need the literal information. As we realize at the same time, all information is just that, floating ideas, and that, as all ideas must be, are created. And yes, the information pertains to that which the simulator comprises of and is taking place, but everything simulated and all the information regarding it is created. Created ideas applied to created situations. And we need get through all ideas and not be absorbed into any of them, not to cling to them and make them into encased, simulated bubble realities. And there would be much reference through the Nag Hammadi Scrolls regarding archons as being the main expression of this ill-intended reptilian controlling force. With these scrolls and such, we must be aware of how, yes, they may contain real information as they do, but there always is the possibility of disinformation. The Gnostics may have been sincere enough, but to what extent were they connected with the real awareness and even with the real guides? As through a real awareness and with the assistance of the guides, can a discernment of what is real be more determined? It's even possible that such scrolls can be planted by the reptilians, that yes, it contains information about the simulation, but also maybe have additional details that mislead and misdirect. And as ancient as the scrolls may seem, all a time-travelling capable reptilian would need do is bodge up some scrolls today, travel back in time, and plant them 2,000 years ago. For as Duane, the great writer, has revealed, the archons are not the malevolent, ill-intended beings, as has been widely considered, but beings that reside in the deep dark border, the very edge of creation, in literal, dimensional terms, have had no hand in the manipulation and control of the overall consciousness, and in fact have then been misrepresented through such things as these scrolls. which as a result have the archons now widely accepted as the main bad guys. Nevertheless, as the real side has revealed, there are endless ancient sites, forgotten places, curious artifacts that who knows as to their technological purpose, and concealed scrolls and tomes, and it's conceivable some of which may have been concealed and written by real guides, and it is now, at this moment, that what the books contain, or the function artifacts serve, may be instrumental, considering the dire situations the Earth, and indeed the entire simulator, faces.
NUUU, and we're going to do it at the end of the show here, show you. It's a NUUU, and that's a connection to something very real. Try it before bed and throughout the day. It goes like this. NUUU. And Kevin?